All right, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the newest program for being bipolar. Now, tonight's topic, behind my eyes anyway, Marilyn Monroe. Now, whenever I say that name, the first image comes to mind back when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. My father had an original Marilyn Monroe Playboy. And I had no idea what it was, and if I did, man, that thing would be wrapped up in a vault somewhere. But she, it just the understanding at that age, looking at something like that is like, oh, okay. And it was just a cover. I never looked inside. It's just the fact that I saw the cover of it, and it was Marilyn Monroe. And I'm guessing she had quite a few Playboys because she created it basically. But the history behind Marilyn, there's a lot of deep, dark mental illness in there. And it all started before she was even born. She was cursed as soon as she came out of her mother because her mother and her family had mental issues, all forms that have been genetic. So coming out of the gate, she had issues. She went into the foster care system because her mother was put into an asylum. There was proof of it later on about it. So right there, she's going through foster care. She's going through different kinds of orphanages and being abused. And while this is all going on, her mind is basically building walls. She had to have been. She didn't know what normal was. So she was just going off of what she was raised with. And at one point, she knew something was wrong. And Norma Jean was her name. And she started developing ways to cope. And one of those things was sexuality. And back in those days, highly frowned on. I mean, she did one of the first natural poses for a calendar. Very beautiful. There have been others, but hers launched Playboy. So now we've got Norma Jean transferring into Marilyn Monroe. And while this is going on in her mind, all of a sudden you have this massive rush. It's like a tsunami of people wanting to do what they need to do with you, use you, abuse you, control you. It was all coming at you at once. So at this restaurant she got the connections. She worked with different people while taking acting classes. She was serious about being an actress. She already had the look, she already had that going for her, but she wanted to work on being an actress. And for a very smart woman, and she has to be smart to survive what she had gone through so far, she absorbed. And I have a feeling with everybody that I'd seen and heard in documentaries and all these stories, I have a feeling she had the ability to feel the emotions of the people around her, especially men. She was so seductive without even realizing it that I guess she knew what she was doing. She had to have. She became Marilyn Monroe. And through movies and through different people, marriages, Joe DiMaggio, man, was her second marriage. We won't talk about her first marriage because she was 14 and the next door neighbor was 21. So that right there is another traumatic episode in her life. So But I'm guessing that was just to save her from going back into a foster system, from what I understand. And the guy was decent about the whole thing, so that's what we understand anyway. But Marilyn Monroe hitting the movies, getting married to Joe. She loved Joe, and Joe loved her. You could see it, but Joe was controlling, and Marilyn was becoming a goddess. She had the attention, and when her dress went up in on that shoot, and she let them do it over and over again, he didn't like that. But again, it's Marilyn Monroe in that iconic part of that movie. I mean, I don't even know what the name of the movie is, but I know that part. So, as she was going along, though, she was embedding herself into people in Hollywood that had some really bad connections. So, you've got politics on one hand, you got the mob on the other, and they're all one area at that little hangout, a rat pack, whatever you want to call it, Peter Lawford. Yeah. So Marilyn is basically hobnobbing with all the bigwigs. She hooks up with the Kennedy boys. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what killed her. Well, everybody knows the history with the Kennedy and the mob. The mob got him elected, and Kennedy turned on him with his brother being the highest law officer in the world. But the one thing that the brothers loved more than anything else, even power, was women. Yes, the Kennedys loved their women, and they shared them, and they did weird things, but Marilyn got hooked into it. First John, he stopped it. Robert took over. And I believe that relationship, the mob killed Marilyn Monroe to set up Robert Kennedy, because Kennedy went into LA at that time when he wasn't supposed to. He was on the campaign trail. Yeah, he stopped that relationship. And apparently, she called him up. She was in some pain. She was having issues. She needed help. She wanted to talk. Anyways, that's just, all the declassified documentations that you watch in all these documentaries and everything. So that's the history of Marilyn Monroe in a nutshell. I personally enjoy Marilyn Monroe's beauty and her aura, as you would say, if you believe in that. Her karma, or however you want to. The one thing is she wanted to make people feel good. She thrived on it, and she can feel it. She also could feel all the negative as well. You could see it in her eyes in a lot of the later pictures as she was getting older. And she was running a production company, which is amazing, because actresses at that time, man, other than Lucille Ball, I really don't know who, it amazes me. And that's something I'd have to research, because the women in Hollywood at that time were treated like shit. And it is aggravating that they had to use the one thing that the men thrived on. They had to use that to get ahead. And Weinstein would have loved that era. I think he, modeled his life on that. But, or Bill Cosby, whatever. But they got caught in the right time, because we nailed them, and they deserve what they get. But back then, oh man, it was a dime a dozen. All the actresses that were coming up that actually stayed in and got older, all of them will tell you the same stories. And that's how you got ahead in Hollywood. So, Norma Jean, aka Marilyn Monroe, comes into this already with trust issues, walls built up, her psyche, nobody knows, not even her. She was talking to therapists, but these therapists were taking advantage of the fact that they had Marilyn Monroe on their couch. Now, some of them I granted tried to help her, and she walked away. She couldn't deal with it. But there was not a whole lot of follow through. She was actually in a dangerous place for quite a while. And it's noticeable. Even her friends that were close to her noticed it, but nobody did anything because that was Marilyn. She'll pop a couple of downers and then a couple more sleeping pills and sleep the day away. Try and wake up and see if the day's any different or any better. But coming out of the gate, Marilyn, she had the whole world against her. And there was a lot of weight on her shoulders. And as smart as she was, the one thing that I couldn't understand is why she was hooked up with the Kennedy boys talking about nuclear. At the same time having connections with Arthur Miller, who is a signed communist. Yeah. But she should have been vetted better, knowing that people in her past were of another nation. Anyway, all of this is going on, and Marilyn is in a group of guys that have top secret things going on. So she's already open to getting snuffed out by CIA right then and there. I mean, you've got the president, and then you got the attorney general. So, she was giving it up to somebody. Now, the iconic "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." Beautiful. I mean, she was higher than a kite, but it was beautiful. The dress, her aura. I don't care if she was higher than a kite. The way she did it makes us still remember it today. Okay? So, when it comes to acting dumb in public, Marilyn Monroe was very good at it because that's who she, pushed. That's a lot of her movies were about until she got older, more experienced, and some good acting classes. Her last movie with John Huston was pretty good, acting-wise. And she got a lot of slack for it. And I don't understand, because she didn't play the dumb blonde. No, she had some power to her. And, it was good. But we got the Cold War going. We got the mob involved in Bay Pigs. We got John screwing everything that he can. Robert taking seconds. And Marilyn's stuck in the middle again. Being abused, being thrown around, being ignored by the ones that have her heart. But yet, if you look at her, you can see whatever it is she's thinking. She has the ability to show her emotions in just a look. I did a lot of watching, and I had planned to do this for 2 weeks. I have talked to quite a few people, and I consider one of them out in Iowa an expert. And she, my cousin, has been a Marilyn Monroe fan since day one. And okay, that's cool, all right. And I went through my stages, and she stuck true to Marilyn Monroe. And I didn't really get it until we talked about it just recently, a couple days ago. And after watching everything and talking to her, I just, when I say the the name Marilyn Monroe, I have so many other images that show up now. And none of them are sexual. All of them is showing somebody that is in so much pain and nobody is helping. You can see it in her eyes. Her body is telling you. Her mind is giving off signals that somebody should have read. She should not have been in that kind of mindset at all. But again, we don't know what she went through literally throughout her life. You know, everybody has their own normal because nobody is any other individual. You know, what we go through, what we experience is what we are, is who we become. Okay? And then we want to pass it on. Marilyn, God rest her soul, I don't think she knew how. I don't know if she knew how to cope with it. Nobody, even her therapist, I don't believe, were trying to help her. All they were doing was giving her more pills. Yeah, let's give her some more chemicals. Yeah. But the thing is, and I swear on this one, the Marilyn Monroe's autopsy report, probable suicide, okay, that right there is a trigger, but was, okay, let's try something else. Where is any of the documentation on the full examination of the body? Now, when they pumped her stomach, this is from just different sources now, there were no barbiturates high enough to cause death. And I hate to tell you, but if you take a ton of barbiturates at that level, there's no way you'd be puking it all up. It would be everywhere. Okay, and there wasn't. Okay, so you've got all these things going on with the medical examiner. The one key thing I ask is who examined the body for needle puncture marks. Okay, there, right there. That would have, you would definitely have found something. The room was cleaned. Marilyn, I don't believe, was suicidal. She was going through a rough patch. She was dealing with a lot of different issues. But she was one person that thrived on emotions from the people around her. She needed that. It's an addiction. So I believe she might have been too scared because of the pain. Some people with emotions and issues don't want to feel the pain. So there are different ways of telling yourself that suicide is not the way out. But with Marilyn, I do not believe she wanted to commit suicide. I really believe that she still wanted to be an actress. She still wanted to be around people that could make her happy. She still wanted to be able to try and have a family. You know, actually find a man that doesn't treat her or abuse her in any harsh way. So, all in all, when I think of Marilyn, squirrel note. Yeah. Whenever I say Marilyn, I would go straight to Manson. Every time. I have to stop myself. Because, Marilyn Manson, you gotta love them, beautiful people. And I just, every time I say, so I have to stop and think about what I'm saying before I say it when it comes to Marilyn Monroe. So, but Marilyn Monroe, when I think about her, it's mental illness all around. She needed the right help that wasn't available to her because she was surrounded by the wrong people. I believe her therapists were just basically taking advantage of her. I believe that if she was around in this day and age, she would be a goddess on film. Betty White would have had competition. I swear to you. This world would have been such a better place if Marilyn Monroe would have actually gotten taken care of the proper way. And that's key for mental illness all around. If you feel like you need to talk or to figure out what you're dealing with, there are people out there. We are out there. You have got to do the first step yourself. Just ask. The people you trust are the ones that will be there in the end. The family that you have and that you choose are there for you as you are there for them. Use it. People like Marilyn need help. If you see it, if you feel it from somebody, anybody that you're acquainted to or that you love dearly, either way, it's time, people, that the stars like Marilyn Monroe here today, support them, help them. It's time, okay? We need to start figuring out better ways of dealing with mental illness. Alright, that's Doobie Snacks. I'm out. Love and peace. And R.I.P. Marilyn. We love you. Always will.